All right, we're back in front of the washer and dryer here. And that video I made earlier in the week about 2 key lessons that will make you a better lifter seemed to go over pretty well. One of the things that seemed to stand out to people was when I said lifting should enhance your life, not take away from your life. It shouldn't be your life, it should just enhance it. And I think that's a really important principle. We did this. The reason we started doing this was for fun. At the end of the day, this was a passion of ours. This was a hobby of ours. It's easy to lose sight of that when the comparison game is going on, when you're scrolling through your social media feeds and all that sort of thing. But you got to remember the root of it. I had to remind myself of this a million times over the years when I would get discouraged or injuries would crop up or anything like that. And guess what? Injuries are going to crop up for anybody. Everybody's going to get injured at some point. I don't care if you do all the warm-ups, you're being 100% about your recovery, with heat, with ice not so much anymore. That's not as much of a thing. But with mobility, with all that stuff, if you do all that, guess what? You're still going to get injured. Injuries are going to happen. They are a part of the lifting game if you're in it long enough. You've got to remember that. If you're lifting long enough, you will get injured. And to some degree, whether that's as simple as tendonitis, whether it's elbow tendonitis, arm tendonitis, shoulder pain, whatever. It could be anything, back pain. You can feel invincible for years, but it's going to catch up to you. It's going to happen. So my point is, don't get discouraged with injuries. Don't get discouraged with social media. Remember, you're doing this for fun. This is something that you're passionate about. It could be your main hobby. You love to do it. Don't let it become a chore. If training becomes a chore, that's a surefire way to tell that you're training too hard, you're training too much. You need to back off a little bit, have a deload week, take a break, take a few days out of the gym. That was one of the main things over the years that really helped me, was just taking a few days out of the gym. Where if I'm feeling run down, things are starting to hurt, I'm not motivated. If you're not motivated and the lifting doesn't feel explosive, it's probably time to take a couple days off. So that's one thing that'll really help. But don't get caught up in it all. That's just one of the things. It's supposed to be your passion, your hobby, whatever. It's not supposed to be this difficult task that you hate. So if you're starting to hate it, change it up. Take a break. But one of the things I want to talk about here was consistency. So consistency, no matter what you do, is king. It could be lifting. It could be business. It could be anything. For me right now, it's this channel. I'm trying to pass on the things I've learned over the course of 17 years of training, starting when I was 14, and now I'm 31. It's going to be 32. So I'm trying to pass all this on to you guys. All the information I've learned that got me from that kid in my basement to a 2,100 pound raw total. So one of the things for me was consistency. And that doesn't mean you can't miss a day during the week. That's not the point at all. I talked about that in the last video. It's okay to spread the training out. It's not consistency over the short term. It's consistency over the long term. You see the difference? I'm going to say that one more time because it's really important. It's not consistency over the short term. It's consistency over the long term. That's the difference in those who are successful compared to those who aren't. You can take a week off every once in a while. If you're on vacation, do not freak out if you miss a week of training. That's okay. You can miss a week of training. I've had guys in the middle of meet preps, in the middle of training cycles, where they have to go off on business for a week and can't train. Guess what? We make it to where that doesn't hurt the training cycle at all, because missing a week isn't going to kill you. You can take a week off. You can push your training days back if you're sick or if you're, anything like that. If something comes up, if you feel burned out, but it's the long-term training that adds up. That's where I go back to the guys who are very consistent, who chip away, tend to make better progress than the guys who are going out guns blazing for a while and then burn out. So it's that long-term consistency. It's like me putting out video content. I know that if I keep the channel going and don't burn out and get to where I don't post a video for 6 months, the channel's going to grow. People are going to see the content, see the value of the content I'm providing, and things are going to progress from there. So I need to be consistent about it. I was consistent. For me, lifting, it was easy to be consistent with. Things like this have not been. So we all have the weaknesses. We all have things that are harder for us than others and easier for us than others. But my point is, just keep chipping away. And this is why you need to think about structuring your training in a way where it is sustainable over the long term. If your training is not sustainable, If you know that you're going so hard right now, it's taking so much mental energy out of you, you're spending 3 hours in the gym, you're going to burn out at some point. This is why I don't recommend that. I recommend training in a manner where you're not in the gym that long, hour and a half tops, maybe 3-4 days a week. Younger guys can train longer. All the younger guys I train, they can train longer. They can train more days. It's better for them. When I tend to see a pattern with older lifters where we try to dial back a little more of the frequency, time in the gym, and that sort of thing. But it's individual. I shouldn't box it into age categories. It's individual. But my point is, if it's okay to kind of lean in and go a little harder during a meet prep or something like that. But for the most part, you want to structure your training to where you're not getting burnt out, where it's sustainable long term. So shorter sessions, less sessions, mix it up, have other things to focus on in your life. That's going to make it better to where you can keep your training going over the years. Because you guys all work, you guys all have jobs, a lot of you physically demanding jobs that make it tough to come in the gym afterward. One of my guys, Chris Myers, this guy busts his butt all day out in the cold. He works in this manual labor job and comes in and trains right after. I got another guy in New York, CJ. CJ's another guy in New York on Long Island. He's the same way. He's doing roofing all day and stuff like that. And then he comes in at the end of the day and trains and gets it done. So a lot of you have these obstacles where you work long hours, you have these jobs, but that's where training comes in. It shouldn't be too long, shouldn't be too aggressive. It should not usually lead to injury. Like I said, injuries happen, but you want to cut the volume and frequency enough to where you can make it sustainable. But these obstacles are going to be there, and you have to make it to where training's sustainable long term. It's not burning you out. It's my main point. Now, the one other point I wanted to make in this video, and guys, when I'm making these videos, it's just off the cuff. It's stuff that speaks to me at that point in time that I feel I need to pass along. So it's the same way with the D-ball video, the trend video, all that sort of stuff. I'll make bullet points on those as far as the main things I want to cover. But a lot of this is off the cuff. What do I need to get out there to you guys that's going to help you? Because I'm all about helping you. I want to tell you how you can train more optimally. I didn't really have anyone at the time when I was coming up to tell me. I had people influencing me and such, but these messages get lost in the weeds. And a lot of young guys, they won't listen to this. But this is important stuff. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about was it doesn't matter how late you start with the lifting game, okay? I've seen guys peak at 40. I've seen guys peak at 30. I've seen guys peak at 25, 20. So the point is, when you see these young lifters coming up with massive deadlifts and whatever, that does not mean they're going to hit some ridiculous number in 5-10 years when they have more lifting experience. Often the guys, this is a really interesting point, often the guys with the best lifts at a young age burn out sooner. I've seen so many guys burn out quicker. And even me, my peak lifting was at 26. 26 was my peak strength, roughly. And I started when I was 14, so 12 years in. So if you start at 30, you could theoretically still be peaking well into your 40s. If you start at 35, you could be peaking at 45. There is no age cutoff for things, okay? I have guys in their 50s who are crushing it. I just got a guy in Idaho, and he is crushing it, about to turn 50. So it's like, age is not the limitation. It doesn't matter when you started. If you feel like you're late to the game, if you feel you're behind because you didn't start when you were 14, you're not. That simply prolongs the age to which you can progress. You'll progress at a later age than I will. Okay, so by the time I was, late 20s, I had all these injuries starting to rack up from the heavy weights, the abuse of anabolic steroids, that sort of thing. But a lot of you guys, let's say you started at 25, you're still going to be rolling at 35. You're going to be okay, because you had a later start on it. So that doesn't necessarily mean the end all be all as far as what age you started. It's never too late. If this is what you love, you can still progress no matter what your age is. It's just all comes down to structure and not getting injured, minimizing injuries, that sort of thing. That's going to be the most important stuff. So it looks like we're coming up on 90K here with the subscribers. Really appreciate you guys, and hope the content's good. Hope we can get better and better podcasts. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.